I think this may be the most consequential lawsuit that this office will be a part of in my generation. It is almost impossible to overstate the importance of the South Platte River to the future of the state of Nebraska. So to just give you a brief history lesson, I promise I won't go over 100 years of history over this compact, but before the compact was signed, before 1923, Nebraska actually had rights. I think this is important for Nebraskans to understand. We had the right, as Nebraskans, to be able to assert our senior water rights over junior users in Colorado. What that means is, before the compact was executed, we actually could shut down junior users in the state of Colorado. It's a bad thing for those users, something that the state of Colorado didn't like, and they negotiated with the state of Nebraska so that Nebraska would give up that right. It's a very powerful, very valuable right. We gave it up in 1923 in exchange for two significant promises. The first promise is that Nebraska would get 120 cubic feet per second of flow from the South Platte River during the summertime season, from April to October. That was promise number one. Promise number two was, if Nebraska were to build the Perkins County Canal, what we know as the Perkins County Canal, that we would get an additional at least 500 cubic feet per second in the non-irrigated season. This is an enormous quantity of water, and it is hard to overstate the impact, not just of the western part of the state and agriculture, our most important industry, but throughout the state of Nebraska today, including Lincoln, as the governor mentioned, including industry, our ability to grow, second most important resource, and truly our ability to grow as a community and as a state will be restricted, if not devastated, if we lose access to this water. But also, this is a compact that ultimately was agreed to in 1923 that exists in perpetuity. So we could take a 50-year time horizon, and that would not be long enough. Truly, as long as there's a state of Nebraska and there's a state of Colorado and there's a South Platte River, this compact will matter, and enforcing our rights under the compact will matter. So Colorado gave us these two very important rights. Now I'm going to fast forward 90 years, and about 10 years ago or so, plus or minus, the state of Colorado was undergoing a rapid expansion in the Front Range. You know the population growth that's going on there. The state of Colorado was aggressively pursuing water from the South Platte River in ways that we knew were harming Nebraska and would absolutely harm Nebraska going forward. We would lose not the entitlement to the water, but we would lose the water to which we're entitled if Colorado's growth was unchecked and we didn't assert our rights. So 3 years ago in 2022, when I was Speaker of the Legislature, working with then Governor Ricketts, we passed a bill to support the initial phase of the Perkins County Canal construction, which was approved by the legislature and gave us the funds to do the first phase. Phase two was approved under Governor Pillen's leadership in 2023. That was when the legislature provided the funding to build the Perkins County Canal. Now, I want to tell you three sort of work streams that happened from 2023 to today, because one of the questions you might ask is, why didn't you sue 2 years ago? And I want to tell you three different work streams that we have been working under that have sort of culminated to this moment, very briefly. And then after that, I'll just tell you what the going forward is, and I'll hand it over to Director Bradley. The first work stream is the design of the canal. That's under Director Bradley's leadership. They've been working on the design. As part of that work, they had to identify the very specific parcels that we potentially could purchase. There was indications that the governor mentioned that some of the landowners, maybe all the landowners, actually had a desire to sell to Nebraska. And we owe a fiduciary responsibility to the citizens of this state to explore every avenue to be able to build this canal as cheaply and as inexpensively and as quickly as possible. So the work of the design and the land acquisition process, there's been public reporting on this, went all the way till about April, May of this year. We sent out offers. Some of those landowners who said that they were interested in selling have decided to change their mind, and those landowners, instead of actually being interested in selling, now all have expressed a very public desire to fight Nebraska in eminent domain proceedings in Colorado. That was the first phase, sort of just culminated just within the last 2 months. The second phase, along with designing the canal, there was significant hydrological work that went along with the design of the canal, understanding the size of the canal, the impact, how we were going to put the canal together. As part of that, we started to better understand actually the breach of the compact for the summertime flows. Whenever we talk about the South Platte River, I think over the last 2 years, we've been almost exclusively talking about the canal. That's an important part. If we don't build the canal, we don't have a right to the wintertime flows. What we haven't talked as much about is the impact of the lack of water that we are entitled to today during the summertime. The work through the design and Director Bradley's team that they did on the hydrology started to give us more sense and scope, and be able to quantify a little bit better really the degree of the breach from Colorado. And just to give you some sense of what we think from a conservative basis, we think that we have lost out on over 1 million acre feet of water during the summertime. So put aside the Perkins County Canal itself, during the summertime, not just in the last year, over a period of time, that's a significant amount of water that has an enormous amount of value. Just that water alone is valued conservatively in the 9 or 10 figures, potentially over $1 billion, depending on how you measure it.